NCTV45, The Train, anytime on your time.
It could be you, it could be me, it could be everything we see. Given the day, given the time, given the moment. It could be you, it could be me, it could be everything we see. Given the day, given the time, given the moment. Some of it comes.
Bill's Bake Shop will make you happy. Owner Bill Cast and his staff keep the tradition going with all those bakery items you remember as a kid. Just to name a few, Bill makes cream sticks, cinnamon rolls, bear claws, cream horns, cannoli, cakes, pies, cookies, bread, pizza, and more. You can also buy homemade Cavatelli and ravioli. Bill's Bake Shop, located 228 North Liberty Street in the Mahoningtown section of Newcastle, is open Tuesday through Saturday, 7 to 5, and Sunday, 7 to 2, closed Monday. Bill's, where smiles are everywhere. Call 724-654-4223.
Whether it's a scheduled appointment or same-day service, DiCaprio Carpet Cleaning offers 24/7 service for commercial, industrial, and residential, as well as fire and water damage restoration. Using state-of-the-art technology, DiCaprio Carpet Cleaning experts are ready to professionally clean your carpet today. Call DiCaprio Carpet Cleaning for a free in-home estimate. Thank you for making us Lawrence and Mercer County's largest carpet cleaner.
And remember, nobody gets your carpet cleaner.
It's time to go to Chilella and Carney, floral design artists, for flowers, plants, figurines, and so much more. Whether you're celebrating that special day, that special engagement, anniversary, birthday, you name it, Chilella and Carney has what you need. At 1006 South Mill Street, it's Chilella and Carney.
Hi, welcome to Gentleman's Monthly on NCTV45. This is host Matthew Geiger with returning guest Dale Perelman, and we're talking today about his book, The Regent.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, why don't you introduce us to this book?
Well, it's a very interesting book. It's another of my books on famous diamonds of the world. And the Regent today is in the Gallery d'Apollon in the Louvre. And I've had the opportunity to visit it several times. Actually, once I visited it when the museum was closed, and I got to walk by where John Singer Sargent's famous painting was, and into the Gallery Apollon, and got to take photographs of the Regent. It was very interesting. My wife took the photographs.
Oh, wow. So you got a little special behind-the-scenes tour of the Louvre.
Yeah, it was really wonderful.
That sounds amazing in itself. For those who don't remember, the Louvre is like the most famous gallery or museum galleria in Paris.
Yes, it is, and one of the most famous in the world.
Yeah.
Along with the Met, maybe, and British Museum and the Hermitage, it would be in the top 5 museums in the world.
And you've gotten to go to all of them?
I actually have.
That's great.
I actually have. I've been to the Hermitage. I didn't see as much of it as I would have liked.
They're big places.
It's big places.
I mean, we know down just in Pittsburgh how big that is, and that's an amazing museum in itself.
Oh,
and
it's
you
just fabulous. We're lucky to have it.
oh yeah, we are.
I think I mentioned to you that there was a short tie-in. This diamond
Yeah.
was found in Emperor Aurangzeb's mines.
Okay, and where?
In India.
In India.
Yeah,
Okay.
and most of the older famous diamonds were of Indian origin.
Okay, so if you're diamond hunting,
Yeah, well, it's pretty well dried up around
okay.
Golconda, and they called him the grasper of the universe. And he was a pretty rough emperor. He was a Mughal emperor. He was the son of Emperor Jahan, who built the Taj Mahal.
Okay. Famous landmark.
Yeah,
Love
and
of it.
which is also a very beautiful land.
Yes.
But anyhow, this poor Sudra, which would be the lower class, a working class, was working in a mine. He saw this beautiful big diamond, and the diamond weighed in the rough probably 280 carats.
Okay, and that would be about an ounces or
Well, that would be 2 ounces.
2 ounces. So
I mean, it was huge. And he decided he wanted to steal it. So he hid it and then came back at night and got it, and he escaped, and he got on a ship. And the captain said, what are you doing on the ship? He said, well, don't throw me off. I have the opportunity that we could become very wealthy men. I have this fabulous diamond, and we could share in the profits. And the captain thought about that a little bit and threw the slave into the ocean with the sharks and kept the diamond.
Huh. Honorable man, huh?
Honorable man. So he sold it to a man called Thomas Pitt, who was a little bit of a scoundrel. And he was the grandfather of Lord Pitt, for whom Pittsburgh was named.
Ah, okay.
And much of the book covers how he was always in financial difficulty.
Okay.
And he wanted to sell the diamond to King Louis XV, but Louis XV was very young, so he wanted to sell it to the Regent, who was, and that's how it became known as the Regent diamond. He
Oh,
sold
okay.
it to Philippe,
Okay.
and it became part of the crown jewels.
Oh, okay. So,
And it was put in the crown of Louis XV.
okay. And so, how does this? We heard about the last time in the Mountain of Light.
Mhm.
This connects into it. Is this the same era?
This would be probably 50 years later. It overlaps because Mountain of Light also passed through the hands of Aurangzeb and Shah Jahan.
Yeah,
And-
because I remember
and-
the names of you.
But it was an earlier diamond. It was found probably in the 1320s, somewhere in that area.
Wow. So
And this would be found in 1650s, something
okay.
like that.
So there's a little bit of overlap
Yeah,
there,
but there is an overlap, and a little overlap in history, too.
Yeah. Well, we need to hear from some of our local sponsors, so let's take a break and we will continue hearing more about your book, The
Great.
Regent.
Pegley's Pasta and More. When you're hungry for that great Italian taste, bellissimo, it is tremendous. You have to stop by Pegley's for pasta, sandwiches, pizza. Yes, it's Pegley's Pasta and More for that great Italian taste. It's not just for Sunday anymore. Head over to Pegley's.
Gentlemen, if you want to look your best with high quality clothing, then I recommend Main Street Clothiers and Custom Tailors in downtown Newcastle. Mike Caggiano is the owner, and he and his staff have been in the business for decades, and they will always give you the right recommendations. They also carry Rondinelli tuxedos. That's Main Street Clothiers and Custom Tailors, 210 East Washington Street, downtown Newcastle. Call 724-652-3851.
Horizons Treatment Center at 4 North Mill Street is a group of trained addiction professionals that can provide specialized treatment services. Located in the Washington Center, we are dedicated to serving the local community. Treatment services include co-occurring mental health and substance use disorders, problem gambling, and concurrent criminality. At New Horizons Treatment Center, we strive to provide hope, help, and healing. All in a nutshell, 102 and 117 North Mercer Street in Newcastle. Visit Keith and Margot Jackson for that new look. The latest in women's and men's clothing. Treat yourself today
You'll be glad you did.
Wow, yes, it's fun to go to the Y, and now with great affordable rates, it's more swimming, more exercise, more family time. The YMCA in downtown Newcastle, or the Y Zone on Eleanor Drive in Shannon Township, welcomes you to a variety of programs, exercise, and fun events.
Hi, welcome back to Gentleman's Monthly with host Matthew Geiger, and I'm joined here again with Dale Perelman, and we're discussing his book, The Regent. And as we continue our conversation, could you maybe physically describe this diamond
I
from
sure
start
can.
to beginning? What it came out. We know it came out. A slave found it and took it on tried to sell it, and ended up just getting himself killed in the end.
Correct. And it was approximately 280 carats when he
Okay.
had it. And later on, it was cut down to about half that size to make it a brighter, more faceted diamond. This was the early period of diamond cutting, too, so that people were not quite as skilled in cutting a diamond.
So if they had cut it today, they would probably be a
A
little
little
bit
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might have gotten more out of it, they might not have. But,
And of course it depends on where the faults lie.
flaws,
The
yeah.
flaws lie.
yeah, they try and remove them to make it as clean a diamond as possible.
And-
But this diamond, I thought, had a really unusual past. Most people don't know this. It was in Louis XV's crown.
Okay.
Louis XVI had it,
Okay.
and pretty soon we have the French Revolution. And during the French Revolution, they took the crown jewels and they put them in a place called the Garde Mobile, which was just a repository for all the gems. And people learned that the crown jewels were sitting up in this repository. And first day they snuck in and they started picking furniture and things like that and stole it. And there were no guards. And then pretty soon they came back and they brought chicken. They ate chicken and sat around and decided what they wanted to take. And they took this particular jewel. And for
So let me stop you there. They went in here. I think I'll take this couch, not this big diamond.
yeah,
Maybe they weren't the brightest.
they weren't the brightest. But they got to the diamonds
They
too.
finally got to the diamonds.
And actually, this is probably where the Hope Diamond was
Okay.
lost. They never recovered what was called the Great Blue.
Okay.
And that's a whole other story. The Great Blue was a large stone, and later on, the Hope Diamond appeared, and there were some smaller diamonds that looked like they could have been a part
Okay.
of the Hope Diamond, which makes it a fabulous story. This particular diamond
So they think this great blue diamond might have been cut.
into the Hope.
Oh, okay.
There's very good, it's a very strong theory.
Okay.
This particular diamond, they hid above a door jamb in a house. Somehow it was located. I went back and tried to translate some French books. First of all, I don't speak French,
Well, that can be an issue when you're trying to translate.
but I decided to take some French courses, and I talked to people who were teachers, and we figured out that it was found in a door jamb.
Okay.
And because Old French is not the same, it's like English from 1700 would be a little different from today.
Okay.
But we found that this diamond was hidden, came back, Napoleon took it, didn't put it in the crown, put it in a sword. And then later on, Napoleon III took it, gave it to his wife, Empress Eugenie,
Okay.
and she put it in a lovely tiara.
Hmm.
And, and then eventually it ended up back where it belonged in the crown. And it sits
firmly under guard this time.
Yeah, my understanding, there are certain things that I could not get.
Okay.
If you ask what is the price of the crown jewels, they won't tell you.
Okay.
I'm sure they have it insured or whatever they
Yeah.
have.
Like you
Yeah.
could replace it.
And the same with the Regent.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's worth. A lot of people ask, well, what do you think it's worth? There's only one. There's no way of knowing.
Yeah, it's what people would be willing to. That's like asking how much is this painting worth?
Yeah, you don't know. What is a certain Picasso worth? Well, I think a Picasso was just sold for $180 million, so it could be worth $180 million for a Picasso.
Yeah.
But it's actually inside a safe that goes up and down in the
Oh.
floor at night. Pardon me.
So it really sounds like this story is just very fascinating.
Oh, it
and
is.
it's from start to finish, from one revolution. It seems like you could almost follow this diamond throughout a good part of a very interesting history.
That's exactly how I did it. Some call that a chain of pearls, whereby you follow the events and
Yeah.
the stone follows the events.
Huh.
Because a lot of the history of India is
Yeah.
wrapped up in diamonds like this,
Yeah.
because they flowed from emperor to emperor. Aurangzeb was extremely famous emperor, and
And it's almost sad because in our Western culture, we don't appreciate Indian culture. I mean,
we
they say
don't
the
learn enough about it.
Yes, it seems like they're very interesting. Well, why don't we take a break and we'll kind of continue our conversation
Great.
on this and get a few more some insights about this, really this history that we're discovering and this amazing jewelry that perhaps most of us have heard about it, but don't know much about it. We'll be right back.
Come dine with us, come dine today. If you could use some real good food, there's a place not far away. If you could use a drink or two, or a place to go and play, come to Gallows Italian Villa today.
Welcome to the Silk Road Fair Trade Market, home of those uncommon treasures. When the farmery searches the world over to pick out just the right gift. So stop by the Silk Road Fair Trade Market. You'll be glad you did.
If you're craving pizza and more, then Little Johnny's 2 wants you to come through the door. Their menu includes many pizza varieties, jumbo wings, hoagies, calzones, strombolis, flatbread sandwiches, bread bowl salads, soups, and more. Dine in, take out, or have them delivered. Little Johnny's 2 can even cater your next party. Their prices are right, and the food is the way you expect it. Little Johnny's 2 is located at 130 East Washington Street in downtown Newcastle. Call 724-657-2210.
Arlington Market, located at 726 Arlington Avenue, has all the great food you remember. Yes, their canned goods are fantastic and feature that old world taste. And meat, cheeses, produce, lunch meats, fresh cut meats, groceries, and so much more. It's Arlington Market. It'll make your table look spectacular.
Welcome back to Gentleman's Monthly on NCTV45. This is host Matthew Geiger, joined again with Dale Perelman, and we're talking about his book, The Regent. Now, when we think of diamonds, okay, in if we go back to the 90s, really, and just think of where would you find a diamond? Well, for my mind, it comes back to Africa. And of course, we have, in Africa, we had the history of blood diamonds. That's where illegal trade was going. But and when they reference it, it always seems like diamonds flow like water in Africa. I mean, it's insane when you think of their holding around. But we're going back to a history in India where the diamonds were almost analogous to that.
Yeah, the first diamonds came from India.
Okay.
Later they came from Brazil, which surprisingly.
Okay.
And then first diamonds were discovered in Africa, not till approximately, I think it was like 1863. Don't
Yeah.
hold me to that date, but it's somewhere
Yeah.
like that. And then later, in this century, we found a lot of diamonds in Russia and in Australia.
So you think Australia and Russia might be the next big find?
Oh, they are already.
So we're big.
And a lot of people don't know, we have diamonds in United States, in Arkansas.
Okay, Arkansas.
Yeah, not a lot. It's
Okay.
not commercially
So
mined.
so this is like Beverly Hillbillies kind of
It's-
story, except instead of
People have found some
sizable.
2-3 carat stones there.
Okay, so that would it'd be nice if we could find some
It's
in
like panning
Pennsylvania.
for gold. Yeah.
It'd be nice. I mean, we have all the coal mines.
We don't have a lot of gemstones in
Okay.
Pennsylvania. We have amethyst as our state gemstone,
Mm.
and we don't even have a lot of amethyst.
I'm sure there's a probably geological reason for that,
There
but I can't help but think that in 100 years they're going to have stories about the African diamonds that kind of resonate in a similar pattern, and so it's kind of an adventure.
No, it's true.
And I can't help, and I mentioned this during the break. We were talking about the book The Hobbit, which they just made the movie. It almost feels like Tolkien is actually mirroring this story of the region and the Mountain of Light.
In a way, I think that's very true. I mean, he's done a wonderful job with the book. I wish I
Yeah.
could do as well with the Regent as he's done with The Hobbit, but you have to have something based in a little bit of reality.
Yeah, and to think when you watch on that movie, they have that big diamond. They're real diamonds that are like that. I mean,
That is true.
and it's funny how the stories. It's just kind of interesting, this history that we don't know about. Well, what would you impart that maybe you don't think people in the West have learned in school that you learned during the writing process?
We are just learning about the Shiites and the Sunnites and the different sects of the Islam.
Yeah.
And we're learning a little bit about the Hindu religion, which is also a beautiful religion. Both of them
Yeah.
are. We learned very little in school. They had a history before United States was even thought of as a modern history. I mean, we had a Indian history here.
Yeah.
But and they go back to when we had the Aztecs and the Toltecs. They had a terrific civilization, and we don't follow Asian history
No.
in this country at
No,
all.
no, we don't. It was interesting, and a while ago I was at a brew fest out in Cooper's Lake, which is a beautiful campground if you're looking for a place to go camping in the Newcastle area. But they have a medieval festival, and my brother was able to go to that a few years ago. And there were people who actually, and I don't know if you know, this isn't like Comic-Con where you're supposed to show up as an elf or anything. They'll kick you out for that, but it's a historic reenactment. And one of the things that was very interesting he was telling me about was that there was actually people from medieval area of China dressed in those period clothing and that armor and that in India and stuff. It was very so he learned a lot about that, but it's such a rich culture in this that you want to hear more about. And we see a symbol that we think of the Regent. What do we think of? We think of emperors in America. We think of Europeans.
Mm-hmm.
When we think of the crown jewels, we think of England. We think of the monarchs here. But it's the story. That's just the the last part of the story here.
You know, I think of the wonders of the world, and you follow the Taj Mahal and the love story of Emperor Jahan.
Yeah.
And he built this for his deceased wife. The Great Wall of China, Angkor Wat in Cambodia. I mean, you go back into the 15th century and earlier on some of these things, when with the United States, we have just been discovered in 1492 by, you know, Columbus.
Yeah.
These people had strong civilizations way back then. And there's a lot to learn. I had a lot of fun learning about that.
Well, you know, sometimes I think what makes people really pick up a book, and I'll go back to Tolkien. He was a very dry writer. There are people who, my grandfather was an English major, and he threw the books in the trash because it was so slow to start. You have to use your imagination. The movies do a great job of filling in the action parts, because Tolkien will give you great details on what they're wearing, and then be like, yeah, there was a battle, a couple thousand people died. And that was kind of the writing style back then, and that's another story to talk about. The interesting, we'll have to talk about that sometime, how writing's changed over the decades.
It has.
But the one thing I think that really draws people to a book is when they can almost relate to it. When because people don't read your words, they read it through the lens of how their lives. So when they visualize something, they visualize it in terms of their lives, how it relates to them.
Very astute.
And it can be very different than what, you know, when you write something down. The interpretations I've heard, I've tried to be a very engaging writer, really try to, you know, interact with them psychologically. But people will interpret things in a way you had no intention of writing. And sometimes that's a good thing, but it relates. And that's, I think when you come to a lot of these older books, people who read books, it's because they feel some kind of relationship to it. They're able to put themselves. And when you look at something like the Regent, because it ends up in the West, it's almost a bridge to that culture for us, because we can relate to it, and it brings us, and it's not just about intellectually, it's about a psychological interest. You actually have to, you know, you might intellectually like something or find it interesting, but the emotion, if it's not there, it's very hard to pay attention. I mean, and so when you start connecting this story, you know, some of these fictional stuff, the history becomes very interesting. And I think it's easier to follow.
It does tie in a great deal of the history of India with the French Revolution and the events thereafter. And of course, the French Revolution and our revolution were very much interconnected.
Yes.
I mean, everyone knows that we had French people involved in the Revolutionary War, and they were heroes. And
there was a very interesting general. I'm trying to think of his name. Marquis. You know what I'm talking.
Yes.
I'm sorry for you who don't, but very famous, one of the most important generals,
and was a good friend of Washington's.
Yeah, he was actually. Washington wasn't a great strategist, as it turns out. He wasn't good at winning wars.
But this guy was very young when he came over.
Oh, he was, and then he ended up going back to France, tried to help the revolutionaries, and ended up getting beheaded because he was part of the elitists. I think they tracked him down in one of the Dutch countries.
That I didn't know.
He actually had to flee France, and he was captured.
Thinking Lafayette.
Lafayette. That's who I was thinking of. Yeah.
But no, he wasn't beheaded.
Oh, he was. He was killed ultimately.
I don't think so, but he may have been. He came back here and was a big hero.
Yeah, he was. Well, at any rate, he was exiled from France. I mean, after he tried to help them, bring their democracy. Of course, they were. That was a
wild time.
Their civil war their revolution was a lot worse than ours.
Oh, it was very bloody.
It was terrible. I mean, that was kind of the buildup of the anger. Just like they didn't, instead of addressing the anger, it just built up so much. They're like, screw it, we're burning down the whole place.
Well, it's interesting. The book, by the way, is
Yeah.
available.
Okay.
You can.
You want to
look-
hold it up?
Sure.
so
You
people
can
see?
look on author.com.
Okay.
And you can pick up this book. You could pick up Mountain of Light. You could pick up the Centenarians, and then I have Steel, which is probably the easiest way to get Steel
Yeah.
would be on Amazon.com.
Yeah.
And of course, the books are also available on
Yeah.
Amazon.com.
So this seems like a very you pick really good subjects to start from to learn about history, and
I've enjoyed it, and I think we've talked off camera. I have a couple projects that I'm playing
Yeah.
around with now. One I'm very far along, and the other I got to do some thinking about.
okay, and just a little preview from that's the one where about the murder in Newcastle.
Yes, a lot of people knew about it. The Cadence murder, and with Costal and Atkinson, and there is no doubt in my mind that Atkinson was a murderer, and he killed somebody in Elwood City. There's a lot to that story.
Why don't you tell him who the main suspect to it? What about his background?
Well, Costal, who I had met several times, Costal actually, you know where he was tried, don't you? Meadville.
Okay, which is where
That's
I'm from.
Yeah, they sent it there, and he was a homosexual, and in the early 80s, it wasn't as widely accepted as it is now.
Or at all.
And he had a beard.
Okay.
He had an earring in his one ear. He was a Satanist. And part of his trial, they convicted him of being a Satanist. And there's no rule against being a Satanist.
Yeah.
But up in Meadville, that's good enough to convict you of murder.
So this story, as you can tell, is really going to be be interesting.
It
Just
is.
the character.
I don't want to get into it too much.
No, I just wanted them to
he
hear
was
that.
a carnival, carny guy.
Oh, okay. So again, not something someone suspected. So basically guilty of
All of that,
unsavory lifestyle.
yeah, all of that, but not necessarily of murder. And
Okay.
that's what my book is about. Did he or did he not do the murder?
Yeah. So it's a very interesting story that came from local, but again, you've written The Regent and Steel, and just some very interesting, places to learn. You can learn something, so that's great. And if you're a history buff, this is a great. I think always when you have a narrative, it makes history a lot more interesting.
It does, and most of mine have a little story in them as well. So,
And if you're not a history buff, you still got the story part. And so
That's-
who doesn't want to hear about what an ounce diamond now?
That's-
Somewhere around it. Who doesn't want to hear about a big diamond? I mean,
that's true.
Yeah.
That is true. Thank you very
yeah,
much.
well,
Matt.
thank you for joining us. This has been Gentleman's Monthly with host Matthew Geiger, and once again, thank you, Dale, for joining us. Dale Perelman, author of The Regent and 4 other books.
Listen to me, baby, you gotta understand. You're old enough to know the makings of a man. Listen to me, baby, it's hard to settle down. Am I asking too much for you to stick around? Every boy wants a girl he can trust.